So how do I know if I need an SDS? SDSs, as we've already discussed, are required to be provided by the manufacturer or importer at the point of sale, shipping, delivery, so most likely you'll receive one with each order or shipment. However, it's good practice for downstream employers to check for SDSs for each chemical at the time of purchase, in particular if it's something you've not acquired in the past. This includes consumer-grade chemicals meant for or purchased at the retail level. Consumer-level labeling and other paperwork may not satisfy the requirements of the Hazard Communication Standard. Why not? Think of the glass cleaner you keep at your home. How often do you use that cleaner and for how long? How much of it do you have stored? There's a different exposure risk presented when chemicals are used at work. At home, you perhaps clean your windows once a week, but a worker at a window washing service uses that chemical every day, all day. Additionally, there's a different risk when a product is purchased and stored in bulk. Take the glass cleaner example and consider a product that contains ammonia. One bottle in a building may not be an issue during a fire, but 40 bottles may just pose an increased risk to firefighters. There are also risks associated with storage of different chemicals and how they might react to each other if accidentally combined. This delves deep into product safety management and is a topic for a whole nother video, but it is a good point to make. Again, it's good practice and policy to require all chemicals to have an SDS sheet before being brought into the workplace, regardless of how long it will be there and its scope of use. It's easy to bring in one container as a trial or for a narrow use case and have 100 before too long, creating a potential regulatory exposure or a risk of an existing chemical becoming mixed and producing a toxic substance or other unforeseen set of circumstances. Another key point is each SDS must be current, which leads to the next topic, SDS auditing and updating. How often are SDSs updated? To take our previous example, if the producer of NaClO makes a change to their product by, say, changing the formula to be NaClO2 for whatever reason, they must alter their SDS accordingly, subsequently requiring the manufacturer of the bleach to alter their SDS, passing it along to the retailer and thereby making it available to their workers. All this should be completed in advance of moving the substance along in the chain. In a perfect world, that would make ensuring that the most updated SDSs are always available at all times very easy, but reality can sometimes throw wrenches into the gears. The easiest way for employers to ensure that SDSs are available and are current is to create an auditing regimen. In fact, there are a lot of third-party SDS databasing companies that provide this service to employers for just this reason. But however it's accomplished, best practice is to audit the contents of an SDS database at least annually, but a more frequent periodicity may be prudent depending on the specifics of the organization. For instance, the bleach manufacturer may make many products that are comprised of a lot of different chemicals, and they may want to audit monthly to cut down on potential issues more frequently than once a year. But just know that no matter the audit schedule, 29 CFR 1910-1200 requires that SDSs be up to date at all times. If it's on site, the SDS must be current and easily accessible. So are there any requirements for training employees in all of this? Absolutely. I'll begin with the most basic quote from the standard. 1910.1200 H1. Employers shall provide employees with effective information and training on hazardous chemicals in their work area at the time of their initial assignment and whenever a new chemical hazard the employee have not previously been trained about is introduced into their work area. Information and training may be designed to cover categories of hazards, i.e. flammability, carcinogenity, or specific chemicals. Chemical-specific information must always be available through labels and safety data sheets. There are more specific requirements listed throughout the full standard, but this is the most basic criteria for training. The training must consist of the requirements of 29 CFR 1910-1200 even if certain sections don't apply or seem to apply, the employer's written HAZCOM program, where in the operation hazardous substances are used, stored, or located, how to access SDSs, detection methods for accidental release, how to recognize them and what to do, the specific hazards of every substance, personal protection methods and requirements, how hazardous substances are labeled at all points of the operation, shipping, receiving, point of use, etc. The regimen of these training requirements is baked right in, but has some nuance. We'll start with a worker brand new to the facility. Before they are assigned work or work in an area potentially affected by a hazardous substance, training in these areas must occur. Logistically, a good time to complete this requirement is as part of the onboarding process. Following that, training must occur for each new hazardous substance introduced or that a worker is exposed to over time, and if updates occur to the substantive contents of an SDS. If there are no practical changes for workers, update training may not necessarily be required. What does this actually look like? It depends a lot on the organization, the potential risks based on the chemical inventory, and many other factors, but there is a key phrase in the standard and many other OSHA standards, and that is effective training. So what the hell does that mean? It means that employers must ensure not only that their hazard communication program is adequate, they also must ensure that each employee exposed to hazardous substances understands and follows the provided training. I'll provide an example. Let's take an employer that provides residential cleaning service and completes HAZCOM training with a new employee that is thorough and even includes a comprehensive test at the end, and the employee gets 100% on that test. The employee has been on the job 2 months and one day gets a caustic tile cleaner in their eye while at a job site due to not following the PPE requirements of chemically protective goggles. Would the training be considered effective? That's a hugely speculative question given this example, but I'll make this point. It's up to the employer to ensure that the training is effective, not the employee. So without an adequate follow-up and oversight, the training's effectiveness cannot really be determined. I say that to say this. Evaluation of the effectiveness of safety training is a continuous exercise, and assuming that employees are following, in this case, hazard communication training and PPE requirements simply because they attended training is arguably inadequate on the part of the employer. I'll look forward to a constructive debate on this point in the comments for sure. So, who needs to be trained in hazard communication? Well, the short answer is everyone, to a degree. This is open to some debate as well, but in my experience, there's rarely a worker from the 2-week HVAC contractor fixing the heating system to C-suite executives that doesn't come in contact with the standard in some way. Anyone that enters a facility is subject to the same potential hazardous substances, regardless of status, and I can't think of a facility that doesn't have some hazardous substance risks, even office buildings. Perhaps the training doesn't need to be as detailed for these folks as it would be for the workers that actually handle the chemicals, so it can be tailored a bit, but if there is no training and there is an exposure incident, the absence will certainly be an issue.
You're gonna have a bad time.
A best practice is to make basic HAZCOM training part of an overall safety onboarding for all employees to ensure that there is a baseline understanding of the employer's program and 29 CFR 1910-1200 in general. More robust training can be reserved for those with higher degrees of risk exposure. So has this video been HAZCOM training? Partially, yes. This video has covered many of the main topics required, and so do off-the-shelf training programs that are available for purchase, but there will always be employer-specific items that must be tailored for the organization, facility, and in most cases the tasks being performed that generalized training will not satisfy. Keep this last point in mind when designing a hazardous communication training program. I'll leave this topic for now with these last thoughts. HAZCOM is a very core standard in my opinion. There are so many other standards that overlap with HAZCOM and that are dependent on HAZCOM that to overlook it or underestimate its importance or severity is a disservice to an organization and to those that work for it. I hope you found this helpful and it gave you a better understanding of how to begin crafting your hazardous communication program. If you could take a moment to like and subscribe, it would really help out such a small channel reach the right places. And remember, life is risk. Manage it well. I wanted to keep the bulk of this video succinct, but an explanation of GHS pictograms is just too important to omit. Hazardous chemical labeling is its own special kind of confusing at times, but I wanted to highlight the GHS system of labeling. For the average worker and workspace, these labels are, in my opinion, the clearest for workers to understand and the easiest for employers to implement. The 5 sections are easy to fill out with the use of the chemicals SDSs and can be adapted to most types of containers without too much trouble. Additionally, the pictograms used by GHS are, by definition, global and offer the broadest comprehension even where there are language barriers. Thanks again for watching.